minutes. And that's mainly for a potential for some 40-mile-an-hour wind gusts. We have seen this storm cluster in particular drop about 2 inches of rain in less than an hour. So it has been producing a decent amount of downpours in some of these areas, really soaked from 290 over towards the Tomball Parkway. Right now, let's see if there's any action within the center of that storm. Doesn't look like it. That's the good news. But if we wind this out, from right outside of Conroe to Willis, that'll put itself up into parts, around Cut and Shoot, just north and southern parts of San Jacinto County here over the next, let's say, 15, 20 minutes. Speaking of, just south of Lake Livingston, pretty heavy thunderstorms here just to the west of Shepherd's, or east of Shepherd, that is, excuse me. Goodrich on over in towards parts of the East Tex, that's in between East Tex Freeway and right on 146. So this whole area in towards Trinity River getting squeezed with some pretty heavy rain, even some pretty good lightning with that. Then as we go further to the south, notice as we get across much of the metro, starting to see a little bit of a break. That's the good news, is that we do still have a pretty soaked atmosphere here across downtown. As you get in the inner loop, outer loop, all of these are still looking at some pretty heavy rain where they picked up between about 1 to 1.5 inches. And the entire area, because of the heavy rain we've seen over the last couple of days, the ground's fairly saturated. So it doesn't take as much to run into a little bit of minor street flooding issues. And that's why the area flood advisory is still in effect until 11:45. Now, let's go down to the southeast side. We've got a pretty good aggressive little cluster right here from Clear Lake over towards Dickinson. You can see it right across Bay Cliff and San Leon over towards 146. So that's over towards the Kemah Boardwalk for folks if you're not familiar with where San Leon is. And then pushing southward down towards Texas City, over towards Nadu, over into Lamarck, Texas City Junction, all of these areas. So basically running parallel with 45. On 146 is looking at some pretty nasty conditions. And in fact, you see, we still have some pretty decent lightning within this cluster. That lightning right now is up to about 113 strikes. And most of the morning, we've been tracking some of the outages. In fact, guys, if you want, pop up that center point, and this is what we've got so far. So right now, it looks like we're looking at total 197 outages. That's right about 5,000 customers. Some of those are up just north of Greens Point around the Cypress area, which is where we saw those storms just a second ago. Down around Sugar Land, that got hit pretty hard about the last 10 to 15 minutes, or I should say about the last 30 minutes, that is. And then in that cluster from Pearland over to Pasadena, about 64 customers, or 64 outages, I should say, with a couple thousand customers there. All right, appreciate that. Okay, let's go back and show you what we're seeing. So again, these lightning strikes, and this may add more to that number, to be honest with you, over the next 1 to 2 hours here. And that's how long it'll likely take for these to wind down as they push on through. Heading on down south, really getting pounded here in the west end of Galveston. So from Jamaica Beach all the way on down to the end of the coast. And in fact, if you look at some of the storms within that there, we've got, pea-size hail, skittle-size hail, maybe, if you're looking at about a half an inch, and 32,000 feet in terms of the height of that storm. Now, this cluster, curious enough, I'm going to put a motion over the last hour on this just to see exactly what that's doing. And notice it looks like a lot of this is going to continue to slide northward, so that'll push up towards Jamaica Beach. I would say most of the east end of Galveston Island around Stewart Beach, down to the Pleasure Pier, 61st Street, for example, those areas. Heads up, you're going to see that rain really get intense over the next probably 20 to 30 minutes. And in the wake of this storm cluster that really just collapsed, which is good, notice from Angleton up to Alvin there, we've got not only a special weather statement, but an aerial flood advisory. That goes until 1 o'clock for parts of Brazoria County. So not done with some of the heavy rain just yet, but this is what it looks like out and about in some of the areas, really starting to pound through. So I'd expect this over the next 1 to 2 hours to slowly move away. And as it does, that should give us a little bit of a break as we go into the rest of this afternoon. We'll talk about the future track coming up here in a minute. But first, though, let's head out to our own Brittany Jeffers, who still is out on the roadways. Brittany, you guys were downtown this morning when we started the 5 o'clock hour on another story. And then when the storm started to pop, y'all jumped into the storm tracker there. And last time we saw you, it did not look like it was good driving conditions. It looks a little lighter out there now. What's the story?
Yeah. It's been a busy morning, Justin, as you well know. Yeah, it was around 8:30 when we left City Hall where we were doing our live shots. We went downtown. We were in the Pearland area. Right now we're in Sugar Land. And yeah, good news is the rain is a lot lighter than what we've been seeing over the course of the past 2 hours. So that's positive. However, you can see it is still messy, sloppy commute out here. So if you've got to be on the road, just be prepared for that. We're still seeing a lot of brake lights, people taking it easy out here, going well within the speed limit and just taking their time because the roads are wet. Still seeing some water in some spots, especially those low-lying areas. Thankfully, we saw one accident this morning, but we have not seen a lot of emergency crews responding to that on the roadways this morning. Of course, we're in Fort Bend County. We've been driving around. We were in Pearland. We were in downtown prior to that. The past 2 hours, we saw very heavy rain. Right now, it's dissipating a little bit, which is good. However, the windshield wipers are still really working. We're going to give you another vantage point from what we're seeing out here. See some raindrops on the camera, but you get a look at some of the backsplash, the back spray from some of those vehicles. So it gives you kind of a better look at what we're seeing out there. Not a lot of ponding on the side, but there is some water there. And of course, all the windshield wipers really working hard this morning. Folks still going the speed limit, though. It doesn't seem to be impeding speed out here. But of course, just a good idea to take it slow, be mindful of that. Of course, this is in the Sugar Land area. We're well past the morning commute, but folks still might have delayed the drive or perhaps maybe running some errands. But again, let's take another look. This is what we're seeing out here this morning, just that continued light rain out here this morning. Guys?
I appreciate that, Brittany. So you're telling me that's what I'm going to look at when I head home for my commute here in just a little bit.
Exactly what we're telling you. Yes.
All right. I appreciate it. Well, you guys be safe out there. You've been doing great work this morning. All right. Let's get a little more perspective on what we've been seeing in terms of some issues. Let's get over to meteorologist Daji Aswad. Daji, that's a 4-hour loop you have behind there. And things went from a little aggressive to really aggressive. And what I thought was really interesting is that early and even yesterday, we thought that was going to slide along the coast today. And it looked like it just decided to slide inland, didn't it?
Yeah. You can see over the last 4 hours, we woke up. It wasn't that bad. And then those storms continue to intensify, dropping in heavy rain across portions of Brazoria, even as you mentioned earlier, just in altitude 90, dealing with some difficulties. And then once again, storms coming across the Houston metro itself. Here's a live look in Galveston. Things are going to look a lot worse here in just a couple of moments as those storms inch a little bit closer to portions of Pleasure Pier. And once again, we're going to be watching those storms really pick up there. What we have right now in terms of our flood alerts, we have flood advisories, 2 different distinct zones, one including Houston, Pasadena, Pearland, and then one extending south of Pearland all the way into portions of Angleton. So the one to the north is until 11:45 a.m. And once again, Houston, along Bel Air, Galena Park, Pasadena, Hobby, Spring Valley. These are some of the areas that are still seeing some rain, right? Seeing some heavy rain this morning. And even though the rain is winding down, it's the fact that we have seen a decent amount of rain in a short period of time in some of these communities on top of the rain from previous days. Also, this flood advisory until 1 p.m. So if you're in Manville, as well as Alvin, out to Liverpool, Santa Fe, Danbury, Angleton, we've seen some decent showers and storms come across that area. Once again, flood advisory in Brazoria County until 1 p.m. Now, over the past 6 hours, we have noticed some spots getting hit harder with rainfall totals. These are radar estimated, so totals might be slightly different than actual amounts. But what we've noticed is down towards the coast, out across Wharton County, as well as through portions of Matagorda and Brazoria there, we have seen some pockets of yellow, and that indicates 3, I would say even 2+ inches of rain. And also, once again, extending down there through portions of 288. Went ahead to the past hour. So these vary, and this is important. Over the past hour alone, there have been spots that picked up nearly 2 inches as you head out to the north and east of 290, just to the south of Montgomery. If you're in Magnolia, you notice those heavy downpours, and also seeing that closer to the Woodlands. Even though that amount is less, it definitely came down and hit you hard, and then trying to move on out. Also, where we do have that flood advisory once again until 1 p.m., Liverpool along 35 there, extending down through Angleton up to Alvin. There are some spots that saw 2 and over 1.5 inches of rain in that past hour. So if you're in these communities with the flood advisory, just know that yes, our main roads, like we saw with the Brittany Jeffers and the storm tracker, you may not necessarily be seeing ponding on 59, but some of these side streets are what we're going to still monitor here. So what I'm going to ask you to do is make sure you're checking our website. We have a flood tracker there. Most of our icons right now are showing green. That means great news for us, right? But if you find yourself hitting ponding, send us a note here so we can tell other viewers to be aware, especially if that's a route that they drive consistently throughout the day. Justin, do you have another look at Future Track?
Yeah, I'm going to hit that in just a second. First, though, I want to show you what we're seeing. And the great advice that Dodge just gave there, right, is that if things continue to stay fairly sloppy, even though if it's not heavy downpours, you can still run into some issues here. You saw Brittany Jeffers a second ago. Let's go to Brittany Squared. Our own Brittany Bagley, who is out in another storm tracker. And BB, you and I just in the last hour when we were here talking about some of the fairly wet conditions, that's been 2 days in a row now where streets have been slick to the point where it has probably caused some additional crashes or certainly some white knuckling for folks that have been out on the roads.
I can't hear anything.
Oh, okay.
I cannot hear anything.
All right, we'll go back to Brittany here in just a bit. So why don't you guys come on back to me, and we'll talk about the Future Track here as we get into the afternoon. So the Future Track has been catching up. That's the good news. We've made a few grid adjustments on this, meaning that we've just adjusted the storm location to be similar to where we feel that the storms are. And that is going to be the case going in towards the rest of the day. So notice by about 1, 2 o'clock, this starts to shift over toward Beaumont, Liberty County. Still could be a pretty good soaper as you get on down towards Galveston. And then through the rest of the afternoon, looks like things are going to be a vast improvement. So if that's the case, then the afternoon commute may still be a little soggy at times, especially let's say 2, 3 o'clock. But if we can get a little bit of sunshine breaking through by 4, 5 o'clock, a much better looking forecast, certainly than what folks have been seeing out there over the last 1 to 2 hours. All right, let's go back to Brittany, who's been out. And BB, what I was saying before is that, you know, within the last 2 hours and yesterday, we were talking about some of the slick roads that were adding to not only the crashes, but some white knuckle driving out there for folks that were just trying to get around and to work.
That is true, right? It's adding to the stress. Yesterday, it was stressful. We're on 45 southbound, making our way to the outer belt. We're keeping a close eye on Future Track. Let me show you a live look. So here are the driving conditions for you. Traffic is moving in this shot, right? We are seeing some ponding, but I want to take you to this shot. And I absolutely love showing you the shot because what it does is shows you, the first one was showing you traffic, that rain wasn't too heavy. However, when you look at the tires, what I've seen a lot of, not only today, but yesterday too, is just that when you're falling really close to a car, all that water scatters on your windshield. You lose control of your car and you can't see. So that's what I'm seeing a lot of right now. Looking at the sky, I'll tell you it's dry right now, or you can see it's gray right now, light rain, it is cloudy. But really it's going to be just about those slower drive times. We saw an accident in the northbound lanes as we continue to show you everything happening here. That shot not looking bad. I still think it's going to be all about keeping your distance. As you can see, guys, those roadways, they are wet and slippery. And of course, your weather team's going to update you on everything you need to know. I have my Storm Tracker 2 app right now. I'm the co-pilot. And what I love about this, Justin, is just that Future Track too. So I know if I stay on 45, I'm going to hit rain for the next 30 minutes.
Yeah,
so,
yeah, it's super valuable.
yeah,
That's for
what
sure.
What a day for sure.
Well, you know, hey, springtime here in Southeast Texas, right? This is what you're going to get sometimes. Thanks, Brittany.
That's the truth.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Okay, you guys be safe out there. We'll check in back with you coming up here at 11 o'clock hour. Hey, brand new aerial flood advisory. Caroline and Daji just told us this just popped a second ago. Let's take the details on that. So that goes into 145, right? So 145. So we now got 3 flood advisories, and here's the thing, as Daji was mentioning, so it's not that we've seen 4, 5, 6 inches of rain today. It's just that we've had rain for the last couple of days, and so the ground becomes saturated, and that's when you get into some issues where maybe the ground that could pick up 1 to 2 inches before can't do that anymore. It's just like a sponge, right? So if you keep adding water to a sponge, if you don't do it all at once and do it slowly and it just soaks in, eventually that sponge becomes fully saturated and then it can't take water and it starts to run off. Well, the ground works the same way and soils do. And so that's what we're seeing. Second ago, we had mentioned that the east end of Galveston getting pounded, and boy, oh boy, look at that. Jamaica Beach, heavy, heavy rain all the way up towards the causeway. across 87, Bayou Vista on over to Texas City, Lamarck. These are areas that have seen probably close to 2 inches of rain, I would think, at this point, because we were looking at this within the last half hour with some just heavy downpours that were rolling on through. Meanwhile, we're starting to clean things up back off to the west, which is good news. So we'll call it moderate rainfall here across parts around Bay City. Excuse me, from Angleton down to Lake Jackson, Freeport, and then moving a little further north up here across parts of Fort Bend County, and then up on the north side. Finally getting a bit of a breather over across Hempstead and Cypress, where areas were really, really soaked. And most of that special weather statement that we saw across this cluster near Conroe over to Panorama Village, just outside of Cut and Shoot, north of there, looks like that's really fallen apart, so that's good. That's all across Highway 105, by the way, if you're not familiar with where that is. But still, pretty heavy rain continuing to fall in some of these areas, so just be careful. And then, of course, the other spot that we've got over on the east side here from Livingston down to Shepherd, all of this is going to continue to see some pretty heavy downpours here. So right across 146. So anybody that, if you're in and around those areas, just expect this to probably take the next 30 minutes or so. We'll be keeping a watch on it. Meanwhile, here's a new cluster just popped up here. We haven't seen a whole lot of action up across the Brazos, Madisonville, parts of, let's say, Washington County. It saw some early this morning, but it's been pretty quiet. I'm going to take the storm tracker and let's roll this through the last hour. And notice we don't have a whole lot, and then you see a quick flare up, right? So that means as we get to this afternoon that there is a chance that we could get some additional thunderstorms. I would be willing to bet if we're going to see afternoon storms, it will likely be here. It'll be over across Cameron, Rockdale, Brazos Valley, may see some reload out towards Giddings and Brenham, but I think a little closer towards the metro. We're probably done for the day. And that's just because there's going to be a lot of leftover cloud cover. The atmosphere has been stabilized. Our Topo Chico has popped, and so the bubbles have popped. Everything's just kind of settling down. We may get some additional scattered showers with that, but I think this is the majority of what we'll see. Now, up to the north here, from Crockett, Trinity counties, over to Walker County, Madisonville, may see some additional storms. This one near College Station, this may be one that we'll be watching into the 11 o'clock hour. Meteorologist Caroline Brown will take you through 11 o'clock. You know, I wouldn't be shocked if we're looking at this one in particular and seeing if we may put a severe thunderstorm warning on that. In fact, let's get in a little tighter on this, and I want to see what's happening in that storm. Yeah, so we're looking, you know, it's moving northeast at 26 miles an hour. Oh, look at that, like I just called for it, right? And then there it is. They put a special weather statement on that with hail size of about 3/4 of an inch. So we're talking, you know, maybe getting up to dime to quarter size hail. So if that's the case, that special weather statement goes until 11:30. So now we're looking at a potential for, you know, strong thunderstorms moving across 45, Highway 75, on up, clipping over towards just north of Walker County, north of Huntsville. So that may be the hot spot for this afternoon. Pretty good cluster of thunderstorms still to the south that we've been keeping a watch on here from Texas City down to Galveston. You get the idea. Some of these also still have some pretty hefty storms within the center of that. They're all moving northeast at around 32 miles an hour. So Texas City High School in about the next, I'd say probably 6-7 minutes. Same thing with this cluster to the south. That's headed towards Galveston College around 11:17. That one also might have a little bit of hail. I don't know if any of that's hitting the ground yet. We haven't seen any reports of it, but certainly something, not for nothing, that we need to keep a very close watch on this, and a lot of lightning. In fact, let me turn this off. We'll turn the lightning back on. We're going to wrap it up here in just about a minute. We'll get you back, and then we'll have the whole weather team reload as we get to 11 o'clock. We're talking about almost 500 lightning strikes, right? So that is a lot of lightning strikes, and my guess is this probably will lead to some additional power outage issues as we get into the next 1 to 2 hours. Looks like this is a new special weather statement. Yeah, just popped up there. That's for parts of Clear Lake, League City, Dickinson, Texas City, Santa Fe, you're probably okay. Alvin, Pearland, I think you guys are all right too. This is really just for some of these storms over on the east side of here. So right across Nassau as you get out to Clear Lake and then down towards Galveston. The causeway looks pretty messy. We'll see if we can get a live shot from Houston Transtar, see what exactly that looks like. And then, of course, up onto the north side, Conroe, just to the south of Lake Livingston. We'll keep a watch on this cluster right outside of northern Grimes County and Beat Eyes. And then, of course, into the metro. It's still pretty sloppy, so just be careful. All right. We appreciate taking your time here on this extended weather hit. I'm meteorologist Justin Stapleton. Coming up at the 11 o'clock hour, top of
southeast Texas. In fact, you'll notice some of the heaviest of the storms actually impacting our coastal areas right now. I want to show you a radar loop because these storms thankfully are pushing their way off to the east, but they're not happening quick enough. And as they push through, they're bringing with it a tremendous amount of rainfall. In fact, if we take a closer look, Galveston Island really seeing the brunt of it right now. When you see that deep red color, that's indicating about 2 inches of rain or more per hour. That's why we've got this green box here. That's going to be an aerial flood advisory that extends from Galveston through the island up toward Texas City, portions of 146, even out towards Clear Lake and Dickinson. And that's going to be in place through 145. So even once it stops raining, we're still going to be dealing with some flooding possibility, especially for low-lying, really poor drainage areas. Think construction zones, anywhere where you have a lot of concrete. So the heaviest of these downpours is going to be continuing from Texas City down towards Bayou Vista, Virginia Point, Galveston, really getting hit the hardest. Continuing out towards Anderson Ways. Not only is it a heavy downpour, but it is incredibly electric down on the island. Now, where we're not seeing as heavy as storms, but this just rolled through, that's going to be Alvin out towards Santa Fe, Danbury. You're underneath an aerial flood advisory through 1 p.m. So right now, thankfully, just light to moderate rain showers, but still that's on top of the heavy rainfall that's already come down. If we continue down towards Richwood, Lake Jackson, Freeport, seeing moderate showers here, thankfully not dealing with any sort of lightning there, but still some moderate downpours continuing. As we advance north towards the Houston area, just going to be light showers out here, perhaps a few moderate pockets near Bel Air, but look as we head out towards Mont Belvieu, that's where a thunderstorm has begun to emerge. If we put this in motion, you can see really just over the last hour or so that's been pushing its way to the north. That's going to be continuing to make its way towards the north as we continue through the next few hours. Now, this entire system is moving, and I'll show you that future track in just a few moments. But first, I want to show you up towards Conroe, Panorama Village, that red color indicating a heftier downpour. We can get a closer view on this. Lightning strikes certainly few and far between, but you want to make sure you're heading indoors. Cut and shoot, dealing with some of those lightning strikes as well. You can see those systems continuing to push their way towards the east-southeast as we go really through the next hour or so. Let's show you what this looks like as we continue up the East Tex Freeway, Shepherd continuing towards Livingston. This is a rather strong storm. In fact, if we take a closer look, you can see just to the east of Goodrich, that's showing a purple color. That's indicating maybe even the possibility of some small hail. So if we put this in motion, I want to point out that these storms are pushing their way off to the east. That means once it passes through, things are going to start to clear out a lot, similar to what we've been seeing in Brenham out towards Sealy. One area to be watching of concern, that's going to be this cell that's just rolled through Bryan College Station. This is approaching Madisonville. The reason why you see this white box, the National Weather Service has issued a special weather statement that does include just north of Huntsville and just south of Madisonville until 11:30 a.m. That means not quite a severe thunderstorm, but it is capable of producing 40-mile-per-hour wind gust. Small hail not out of the question. Frequent lightning strikes. Whenever you see a storm like this blow through, that's when you can start to see power outages. In fact, we want to show you the current power outage map across southeast Texas. You can see we've got few different hot spots. Closer towards the coast, we are seeing reported outages there. Thankfully, not too widespread. You can notice there towards the coast, a few power outages, but some of the heaviest totals, that's actually going to be on that Harris County, Fort Bend County line, just to the north of Sugar Land there on the south side of town. Currently 10,000 customers without power, over 10,000 customers without power. And when we say customers, that means households. So actually number of residents without power is going to be significantly higher. This is something we're going to continue to track as these storms roll their way through the area. But I'll tell you what, the other big story here is going to be what it's doing to our roads. You can see we've got those storms impacting really most of southeast Texas. This means roads are wet, and that's where we find meteorologist Brittany Begley. Brittany, where are you headed? What are you seeing? How are conditions out there?
Ooh, you know what? We are 45 southbound making our way into League City, and we just checked in with the weather team 30 minutes ago, and it's changed a little bit. You can see that rain is still picking up a little bit more compared to when we showed you 30 minutes ago. So I want to again show you this shot. It is, as a traffic reporter for a decade, one of my favorite shots, just because rain is coming down. But why we want to keep our distance from other people is because this shot just shows you our tires picking up that water and spraying it on other drivers. So when we cut off people, when we don't keep our distance, this is how we get into an accident. Looking at the sky right here, this shot looks, of course, a lot better, but still we're looking at those gray skies, and it's going to be a busy traffic day. It has been a busy traffic day. It's been a busy traffic day yesterday and today. So, of course, we're going to keep a close eye. I am the co-pilot. Gage is driving. I asked him, I said, out of a 1 to 10, where are we? And he says we're about a 5. So we'll continue to update you. We'll continue to check right here, that Storm Tracker 2, to monitor those showers, and of course I'll listen to you. But Caroline, you're right, traffic is a mess. Even with just a little bit of rain, you throw in just more rain and gustier conditions, and yeah, we have to take it safe on the roadways, nice and slow for sure.
Brittany, I'm glad you guys are going nice and slow. We're going to continue to check in with you, but we do want to show you what's currently happening on Galveston Island. You can see those red colors indicating heavy downpours, frequent lightning strikes. In fact, this is where meteorologist Daji Aswad showing us a live look. Daji, it is really rough down there.
It is. 30 minutes ago looked completely different. It was gray, but it was not as windy. You can even see those flash of lightning across Moody Gardens there, and the wind is whipping that rain across the island. If you plan to head out to Galveston, this will not be the entire day, but at this moment, it is going to be a bit nasty out there. Heavy downpours, and in fact, there is a flood advisory that is in effect for Galveston along the Gulf Freeway into Bayou Vista, Texas City, even touching into Clear Lake until 1:45 p.m. as this storm system that we saw on radar continues to move on in. As we head into our latest updates here, we had a flood advisory once again that expired, was set to expire early there across Houston, as the rain is not as intense anymore. That's great news, but we're still going to be concerned with the storms that are now in Galveston. Some of that rain trailing off out to Manville, Liverpool, Danbury, and Alvin and Santa Fe. So flood advisory there until 1 p.m. Once again, these communities have seen heavy rain in a short period of time. Now, what I'm going to show you here is the past 6 hours. We have noticed that rain move on in, dumping down, depending where you are in Houston, anywhere from near a half an inch out to Aldine. But if you're near closer to Jersey Village along 290, even to the north as well as to the south of 290, closer to 2 inches, an inch and a half out across Bel Air. And if you're in Fort Bend County, you also got a good douse of rain. Pasadena, in and around Hobby, it was soggy there over the past 6 hours. Those numbers really adding up. And I just touched on these numbers. These have updated as well. Likely we'll see this number go up, but so far are catching up to an inch in Galveston, almost 2 inches out to Jamaica Beach, and in and around Texas City and between Clear Lake. There's some zones that may have picked up 3 inches of rain. These totals that I'm showing you right now over the past 6 hours are radar estimated. So the radar's taking an estimation of where we've seen the heaviest. And as we take a wide look here, those zones, Houston, once again, we dealt with some street ponding and flooding because the rain was consistent, coming down, heavy at times, but notice the heaviest have been out towards Wharton County as well as Matagorda, now pushing through portions of Brazoria and Galveston. And then we also saw that in our northwestern communities there as you head along 290. So we're going to continue to monitor these rainfall totals for you. We want you to head to our website. You can also track these out yourself on our website at click2houston.com. If you go to that weather tab, and there you're able to see if there's any active street flooding in your neighborhood. But as I mentioned, we're starting to see improvements here in Houston, Caroline, which everyone is, waiting for, especially if they have to be out and about today.
Yeah, I think it's really good that these storms are moving out, especially because they've dropped a significant amount of rainfall. and we need to dry out just a bit. So let's show you what's happening one more time on this radar. If we put this in motion over the last hour, currently the strongest of the storms, that's going to be areas along Galveston Island. You can see an incredibly electric thunderstorm system. In fact, if we put on the lightning tracker, we are seeing over 600 lightning strikes with this. This is a loud system. You can hear it well before it gets to you, and heads up, Chambers County, this cell is going to be pushing into your area within the next hour. Now, once that moves through, you're not quite in the clear yet. You can see Angleton down towards Freeport. We've got moderate to light rain showers continuing to move in. The threat here is that it's going to continue to bring with it that flood concern. So anywhere where you have low-lying areas, poor drainage spots, it is possible we can see some ponding on the road. So certainly if you're heading out to lunch, plan on a bit of extra time for driving. You can see that stormy system continuing to push its way off towards the east. The good news is that we're not dealing with really any sort of severe aspect here. If we continue to go up towards Houston, you'll notice more moderate downpours here, and even portions of the Katy Freeway over towards the East Freeway, just light to moderate rain showers. In fact, we've got a live look from the East Freeway where you can see folks are going much slower. The rain is coming down. It's just going to be slow going on the roads, at least for the next 90 minutes, I think, as the rain continues to go down. Wow. Not the most heavy of downpours, but that's the thing, is that we are seeing breaks from these showers. It's not going to be a steady, heavy rain. Once the heaviest of it pushes through, you're going to get a nice little break. So Galveston seeing the brunt of it. Here in Houston, we're actually close from being done with the rainfall. Look at Katy. Katy already starting to dry out. Hempstead drying out as well. If we go to our far northern areas, we do have one final cell that is on the stronger side. National Weather Service put out a special weather statement until 11:30 on this. Main concern is winds up to 40 miles per hour and the possibility of small hail. That is going to clip areas like Madisonville. Thankfully, Huntsville, I actually think the storm is going to be trending to the north, so you should be all good. But Madisonville, that's going to get real loud real soon. So these storms continuing to push their way off to the east, and once they do, I think we're actually in for a much more quiet afternoon. Let me show you that 1 hour rainfall where things in the northwest starting to look better. A live look outside, you can see roads are certainly wet, skies looking gloomy, but future track is showing this system continuing to push out. I think, frankly, by 1 o'clock, most of this will be completely out of here off towards the east. And then we're going to be left with a cloudy, more temperate afternoon. And I say more temperate because temperatures right now sitting in the mid 70s. Satellite and radar showing this larger system continuing to dive off to the east. As it does, conditions are going to get a lot better. Eventually the sun could come out, but for now we've got mostly cloudy skies. Temperatures much cooler than we typically would see. 75 here in Houston, but look out towards Brenham. Brenham no longer seeing rain, but they are seeing temperatures in the mid 70s. As for the next 3 days, we're going to continue to have rain chances with us. Thursday, a 40% chance, a 30% chance of rain on Friday. That's really our last wet day, and we're not expecting anything as widespread as what we have been seeing. Take a look into the day tomorrow, starting off mostly dry. As we head into the afternoon, we'll start to see some isolated pop-up storms. Nothing widespread, nothing severe, no flood threat. And then as we go into the weekend, a lot of our pattern is going to be changing as we're going to start to see hotter conditions and drier conditions. Your 10-day forecast showing Sunday is June 1st. That is the start of Atlantic hurricane season. And then we've got temperatures in the 90s. We leave you with a final look at our radar right now. We're going to continue to keep you updated, and we'll be right back at 11:30 with the latest. has already passed for most locations to the west of I-45. Now, we still do have several trouble spots. In fact, you can likely see where that trouble spot is. We're tracking over 600 lightning strikes from Chambers County down across the bay, down towards Galveston. Really electric storm. Now, right now, nothing severe with this. It is capable of producing wind gusts up to 35 miles per hour. And if you're in the thick of it, it's going to be feeling very, very intense. Now, because you're seeing that bright red color, that's going to indicate heavy downpours. And I would not be surprised if we see another aerial flood advisory issued for portions of Bolivar and up towards Chambers County. We currently have 2 aerial flood advisories actively in place. That's going to include this green box from Galveston to Texas City, Clear Lake, Dickinson, Hitchcock, over towards Jamaica Beach. This flood advisory in place through 145. That's because this area not done yet seeing rain, even though the heaviest of the rain has passed. We also have an aerial flood advisory from Santa Fe to Alvin, Manville, Liverpool, Danbury, down towards Angleton. This is in place through 1 p.m. this afternoon. If we put our radar in motion, you can see that very electric storm first passed through Alvin and Angleton, then made its way through Texas City and Galveston. And this is the cell now approaching Chambers County. Winnie, heads up. You're going to get a very intense storm very soon. If you're needing to head out the door, I would just wait for this storm to pass. Behind it, we're going to continue to see more showers, but it's not going to be as intense. It's just going to be light to moderate downpours. Continuing up towards the Houston area, you can see a few lightning strikes out towards Hobby. We have been checking in with the airports. We're going to continue to update on that. We've got light to moderate downpours here in Houston. But look, if we put our radar in motion, everything's pushing out. So areas around Katy and Mission Bend already starting to dry out. And I think once you dry out, we're going to be dry for most of the afternoon. Continuing up I-45 North Freeway here, we've got showers and storms advancing up towards the East Tex, Cleveland, dealing with a more moderate downpour. Continuing out towards Livingston, a thunderstorm pushing its way, continuing off towards the east. But look at this. This is the storm we were tracking earlier. Previously, the National Weather Service was watching this cell near Madisonville. They had a special weather statement on it. They've decided to drop that, which is certainly a good news. This system has been decreasing in strength, but still packing quite a punch. If you're along I-45, those hot pink colors indicating the possibility of some small hail, frequent lightning strikes, heavy downpours. Madisonville, this is likely going to be overhead for about the next 30 minutes. And then you're going to be totally in the clear. So if we zoom out, you can see these systems continuing to push their way through, and they are causing a mess on the roads outside. In fact, I think we have meteorologist Brittany Begley, who's been driving through this mess through the afternoon. Brittany, are you out there? What are you seeing?
Yeah, we are on 45. We're on the south side, and we're still seeing a lot of rain. We're starting to hear thunder when we're getting some gas. Let me show you a live look at all the conditions. So again, this is my favorite shot, and I don't want to sound like a traffic geek, but it really does show us. This is the back camera. So it shows us when we are at a high pace on the freeway, all that water, grit and grime that really comes up from our tires and what gets onto our windshield, and why we're such a big advocate about taking your time, going slow, and giving space so that you're not dealing with this as you try to make your way out in these wet, slippery roadways. Of course, looking at right front view, you can see rain is still coming down. It's not as heavy as it was the past 30 minutes ago, but again, the roadways are still wet and slippery. Taking you to the roof real quick, you can see a couple raindrops here, but the skies are definitely still gray, and rain is still coming down. We're still giving it a 5 out of 10 in terms of just the stress on the roadways. Yesterday was stressful. It's still stressful today, but of course, I am listening to your weather report right here and, of course, on our app just to make sure we are safe and sound. But coming up at noon, we're going to bring you those live updates, trying to find those trouble spots so that everybody is safe and sound, at least for the noon. And, of course, we'll update you throughout the day, Caroline.
Brittany, thank you so much, and continue to stay safe out there. Remember, slower is always best on the roads. Storm Tracker 2 radar still showing the heaviest of those storms going to be impacting Galveston Island. In fact, Daji, you've been watching Galveston pretty close. It's still not looking great.
It's not. We're still looking at those bands of rain and lightning coming across. Once again, I love the shot of Moody Gardens because you can really see that rain coming on down. If you do plan to be out and about today, there will be improvements along the island. So that's the good news. But in the meantime, we want to make sure you are taking it, as we saw Brittany out there, easy on the roads. So far, over the past 6 hours, there have been some zones here that have picked up a good amount of rain, and really Galveston picking up a decent amount of rain as soon as these storms went through. So Galveston right now, the last time we checked in, it was at an inch. Remember, now we're at an inch 0.7. Out to Jamaica Beach, 2 inches, and then continuing to see around 3 inches in between Texas City and Clear Lake as you head to the east of 3 there. We are also noticing our rainfall totals pretty nice across portions of the Houston metro. So out to Belair, over an inch and a half, nearly 2 inches north or just to the south of Interstate 10 there. And then there's some spots that really didn't see too much, which was maybe a little bit more easy going on the commute there in and out through some of these neighborhoods. As for Galena Park, just under an inch, but communities around you likely picked up an inch or so. And then the northwestern side of town, this is where we really saw some storms get feisty, dumping down rain in a short period of time. Just to the south of Montgomery, almost 3 inches through portions of Magnolia, also around that inch to maybe 2 inches in some of those spots. And as you head to the south of 290 there and to the south and east of Pine Island, there's some spots that also once again picked up more than that inch mark. Now, as we continue, we still have those flood advisories in effect at this moment. So until 1:45 p.m., Galveston along the Gulf Freeway in through Bayou Vista, Hitchcock, back through Jamaica Beach there, Texas City, extending into Clear Lake, 1:45 advisory that is supposed to expire at 1 p.m. for Alvin, Manville, Liverpool, Danbury, Angleton, as well as Santa Fe. And I say wouldn't be surprised because those storms have now proceeded to the east. And on the back edge of this, we're looking at improvements compared to where we were just about an hour ago, Caroline. So, you know, people may be sick and tired of the rain, especially during the commute times, right?
I mean, absolutely. And things have been improving. You can see the Southwest Freeway here from our Arc Generators camera. We were starting to see things let up just a little bit, but that's not consistent everywhere. I want to show you another shot driving down the Southwest Freeway where you can see traffic is moving slow, especially as these cars just inch along. You can see the roads certainly wet right now. As a good reminder, if your windshield wipers are on, you need to have your headlights on as well. It doesn't matter what time of day it is. It just makes it easier for other cars to see you. Also, as a rule of thumb, give yourself a little bit more space when it's raining out there and roads are slick. That's because it's going to take yourself longer to stop when those roads are wet. Thankfully, that shot right there, things seem to be drying out. Roads still wet. A good reminder that through the afternoon, it's going to continue to stay active. This is a live look at our satellite and radar where you can see that stationary front continuing to bring with it instability in our atmosphere. But this system is pushing its way off towards the east. Behind it, we still have quite a bit of cloud cover. But look at Austin. They're already starting to see some sunshine out there. So the sun is going to come out, conditions are going to start to dry out, and it's going to start to get a lot better. But until we get there, we're still dealing with some pretty hefty thunderstorms. I'm going to start with our northern counties, take us down to the south, where we're currently dealing with these showers and storms, starting with our far northern counties. Madison County seeing quite a hefty thunderstorm. Now, previously, this was considered a strong thunderstorm capable of producing small hail, 40-mile-per-hour wind gusts. Now we're just tracking some thunder within it, and it's pushing on towards the north and the east. Madisonville, you're likely going to be in the thick of it at least for the next 25 minutes. Continuing down to the south, you can see moderate showers from the East Tex Freeway, Livingston down towards Cleveland, Conroe, Liberty. You'll notice here in the Houston area, things starting to clear out from the west to the east. So right now, that West Beltway still seeing showers. That's going to start to clean out and then we're going to start to dry out across the Houston metro as well. Continuing down towards the south, this is that flood advisory that Daji was just talking about, in place through 1 p.m. This is because it takes a while for that water to drain. Continuing off towards the east here, I do want to talk about this. This is brand new. The National Weather Service just issuing a special weather statement. This is going to be in place for Chambers County through 12:30. So a special weather statement just 1 degree below a severe thunderstorm warning. This means it's not capable of producing severe wind gusts. That would be 60 mile per hour or hail up to an inch. But this sucker is still packing quite a punch. We're talking winds up to 40 miles per hour, small hail, frequent lightning strikes. This is going to be just to the south of Anahuac, continuing to advance its way along the coastline. I'm zooming in to try to see if we can get any cities. I think this is mainly just sea breeze and then continuing out towards Bolivar. So not a particularly populated area, but if you do live there, it is certainly rocking very loud right now. As for our temperatures, at least this is keeping us cool. Currently sitting at 75 in Katy, 72 out in Brenham. Over the next 3 days, we're going to continue to be tracking rain chances. The good news is those rain chances are decreasing. Thursday, a 40% chance, Friday, a 30% chance, and not as widespread, less of a severe weather threat. So I want to show you what we're expecting into the day tomorrow. Quite frankly, that 40% might be about 20% too high. We're expecting our Thursday to start dry, and then through the day, we'll see sea breeze showers pushing on shore, isolated storms, frequent lightning strikes. But really, that's about it in terms of tracking any thunderstorms. So that extended forecast showing a pattern change. As we go into next week, we're going to see high temperatures in the 90s, lows in the mid 70s, and we're going to start to dry out as we get into next week. So we're going to leave you with a final look at our radar as we get ready for our next newscast. You can tune in at noon. We'll have the latest on the storms, local weather, and local news all coming up on KPRC 2.